Welcome to the Relentless Minds podcast with Lori Jimenez, a platform where influential entrepreneurs get real and share their stories of challenges in life that they've had to face head on and conquer in order to be where they are today. Here, you'll get an inside look at the adversities that these individuals have experienced or are currently dealing with, in addition to their opinions on real life matters and philosophies in life. Most importantly, you'll learn what it takes to have a relentless mind so that you too can stay headstrong in your pursuit of a better future. In this podcast, you're going to get 100% authenticity from people that have figured out how to beat the noise that society creates and have a higher level of self-mastery. Hello, everybody. This is Lori. Thank you for coming on my podcast, Relentless Minds. Today, I'm with Johngabrielvictoria. And just to give an introduction to my audience, Johngabrielvictoria, he's a CEO of an SEO company called Pollyanna. And he's going on now for 2 years, since 2016. Just to give everybody background information on what SEO is, he basically helps local businesses generate more business through Google by placing them at the top of the search engine so that they're first in sight. I mean, something about John and how he runs his business is that he focuses on generating customers for his clients that are qualified for their business and that they can actually serve. So he's not just focused on giving them exposure. He offers so much more value than that. And so, John, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I did want to ask you a question I'm sure you get all the time. What is the meaning, or more so the influence for your name, Pollyanna?
So it's really funny, actually. The origin of my name, it actually was a different name when I first started the company. And so when I first started it, I was a midshipman at the United States Naval Academy. So I was on track to being an officer, a naval officer in the military, the U.S. military. And the town that it's based out of is Annapolis. And so when I was first starting my company, it was actually called Annapolis SEL. But a mentor of mine recommended that I shouldn't locate myself in any physical location in my business name. Mm-hmm. But I was screwed because I had already done the logo, the branding was already completed. And so me being the very bootstrappy entrepreneur, I open Paint up and I pull up the logo, I pull up the name. And for some reason, the name so Annapolis in my mind, the letters just moved around, and Annapolis, the S dropped, and Annapolis became Pollyanna. So P-O-L-I-A-N-N-A. And Pollyanna is actually a word. And it comes from, I believe, a 1930s storybook character of a little girl who was very optimistic and always found the good in things. And so very representative of my own personality, as well as the entrepreneurial mindset of the company. Mm-hmm. We took something that seemed like to be a challenge, but converted it into a positive. And same with our outlook in life. We're always very sunny and optimistic. Yeah. I always tell my team members to, clients will come and go, but what's important is your happiness. Yep. And so it just aligns with everything. That's the name of the company, how it came about.
That's interesting. So it wasn't even like that from the beginning, but then you ended up creating something that ended up bringing so much meaning, right, to the business and like kind of your overall mindset and goal. That's exactly. Pretty cool. I like that. I'm sure you get that question all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pretty unique name. All right. I did want to ask you, what are some hobbies that you like to do too?
Yeah, for me, I do. I work out a good bit, and it comes from when I was a kid. I remember when I was maybe 9 or 10, and my parents bought me these 5-pound dumbbells, and I remember just like working out and trying to figure out what I'm doing. And so, I guess back then, it's because I was such a small kid. I'd wanted to, get stronger and get bigger, and I think it's carried over now into today, where I love working out because I love the way you work your body is the way that you work your life, right? You develop, you train, you build, and it just nestles in quite well with my philosophy. So hobbies ties in with my personal development, but yeah, I like working out.
I actually relate to that a lot because I also like weightlifting, and it's all about that challenge. It's about pushing yourself, always setting a new goal and then meeting that. I know that your dad, he's in the Navy, right? So growing up, you traveled a lot.
So I'm Filipino American. I was born in Japan because my dad was stationed over there. And then every 3 years we'd move to another location. So I was born in Sasebo, Japan, moved over to Tennessee, I lived in Naples, Italy for a handful of years. Went back to the States, lived in Pennsylvania, then came to the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. So moved around a lot, but it was very difficult because for me, I never had that root of friends. Like, you had some people I speak with, they've been friends with the same people for their entire lives. And that just wasn't the case for me. And so it was tough for me. I was an introvert. So having to go to a new location every single time, it was difficult. And then having to adapt to new people, new friends. So in some places, they really liked rock and roll. Other places, they liked screamo. Other places, they like hip hop and rap. And then now some friends here, they just like EDM, electronic dance music. So it's having to change and to adapt. It was tough, but I think it played a big role into shaping me into who I am today.
And so that was an influence, right, to go into the Naval Academy, that your dad was in the Navy?
Yeah, so I come from Filipinos or Asian background, so you really want to make your parents proud. And my dad was in the Navy, and the reason why he immigrated over to the United States was because of the Navy. And so for me, my parents, it was a big reason why I decided to go there, and it would make them really proud. Because imagine, my dad was enlisted, meaning, he was an officer, and then seeing his son go to one of the most prestigious naval institutions. And so to make my parents proud, I wanted to do that. I did like the challenge as well, but I would say that it was very shaped by my parents' decision, which, which did cause issues down the road. But big influences of parents.
So you're saying it did cause some issues down the road, because I know that you were in the Naval Academy and you ended up leaving. You were 3 years into it?
Yeah, 3 years into it. And no one really expected it, because my parents, I think they'd already booked a hotel room. They already planned it all out where they were going to go to my graduation.
Wow.
My grandma, who is 83 years old, she just turned 83 this past Thanksgiving. She was looking forward to it. All my family and friends are going to fly out. And so 3 years in, it was very hard soul searching for me, but I had to decide what was good for myself. I wanted to take my life in control of my own hands. And so disappointing to the family, but 3 years in, decided to take a different route in my life.
So tell me about that, because you decided to leave the Naval Academy to pursue a dream, right? And that's Pollyanna. So tell me more about what prompted you, like what vision did you have?
Yeah, so one of the things was that I spotted an opportunity in the world. I think that we're in a very special moment in time. Never before in history have we had this opportunity where we have the internet that connects all of us. And I just happened to run in the right circles, the right network, and have the right education to where I understood how the internet worked, and especially how Google worked, which is one of the biggest, most trusted companies. And if I understood how to make things show up on Google, that could make a huge impact on a business.
That's
that could mean millions of dollars extra in revenue if you knew how to do it properly. And so I helped some companies generate a lot of money. So I saw that opportunity, and I wanted to go for it. So being in the military, the difficult part is that it's very structured, very rigorous. You don't have a lot of freedom. I mean, it's called the uniform military service, so they want you to be the same. But myself, I always felt like I thought outside the box. I always asked why. And I didn't want to just do something just because I was told.
Exactly.
And so if I wanted to accomplish something in life that's never been done before, I'd have to break out of that mold. So for me, the only choice was to break out, to pursue this opportunity, because otherwise it'd be out of integrity with myself and what I saw for my life.
And so you wanted something much more for yourself. You wanted that freedom. You wanted to give back. You saw a problem. You had a solution for it, so you wanted to go for that. That's awesome. But you were raised with your family in the military, and they had these expectations. How did they take that?
So I kind of knew how they're going to take it. So when I left, I didn't tell them that I left. And so what happened was, when I did leave, we were on summer break, as we can call it. And what I was supposed to be doing is waiting for my next deployment to a ship and then to do some training. But what I ended up doing was, unknown to my parents, I decided just to take myself out, to basically exit the academy. And so when they found out because I got lazy, and I think I left my paperwork out. And I
Uh-oh.
think my parents found it. My mom found it. So one day, my mom works night shift. I was working early in the morning. She comes home with my dad. And I was just typing a lot, click clack on the computer, and then I just felt like there was something weird in the air. My parents usually said hello when they came back. They didn't say anything this time. And then mom says hello. I'm like, hi mom, and then she says, she's like long pause. She says, John, did you leave the academy? And so I was just taken aback. I didn't expect anyone to find out. I was telling them that, I've been here because they're delaying my deployment. And so I'm like, what are you talking about? She asked the question again. And then I finally just caved and said, yeah, I left. And so after that, it just becomes a shouting match. Why'd you do that? You're throwing your entire life away. What's your grandma going to think?
No.
You were so close. And so everyone was crying, just yelling. And it was just a very, very tough situation. Because what can you say in that moment when everyone's extremely emotional, everyone's angry, felt like you threw your life away?
Yeah.
And it's hard, too, because at the time, there was it didn't seem like there's any progress, right? In the beginning, no clients, nothing. And so it's like you just threw it all away for what? For what?
So when this whole thing happened, when, this blow up with the family happened, how long into, like, building up your company were you?
I was not very far in, so maybe a month or two.
A month or two, so it's kind of like that time where you're still fresh with those doubts. And
very fresh, and I was just going to networking events. Again, I was amateur, didn't come from a family of wealth, didn't have a business background, didn't have a business degree, college dropout, nothing. And so I don't look that old, too. So there's a lot of like confidence things going on, and then you have your parents yelling at you. You don't have anyone it doesn't seem like anyone's on your side. And so it was very tough on them as well as for me, because starting a business is not easy.
No, it's not at all.
And so with all that weight on your shoulders, it was very tough.
And you're young to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big move. So like you were in the Naval Academy for 3 years, and you knew the pressure from the family, right? And you decided to make that move. But what was it in that time that made you make that decision to just say, hey, I'm going to go for this. This is now when I'm going to leave the academy?
Yeah, so, there was definitely a specific situation that triggered it, but, the preparation for this moment, I would say, has been like 10, 11, 12 years, just preparing my mind for it. But the moment that happened, so one of my friends, John, his name is John Martins, and he was also another entrepreneurial-minded person at the Naval Academy. Me and him started a mobile app, mobile website at the academy, where we were coordinating deliveries of food to people there and finding ways to save money from the restaurant and also save money for the students. So he's very entrepreneurial. I told him about my idea and what I thought could be possible. But then, it was like a pipe dream. I didn't really expect to do it. But we just had a conversation, and he's like, hey John, let's sit down, let's actually talk about things, because we were both on break at the same time. We were at Chipotle. And he's a very rational guy, very smart, much smarter than me. And I tell him my entire situation, and then he's like, John, why wait? There's no reason to. Everything you just told me, the opportunity's now. Why are you waiting? Why are you trying to continue to do this? I know you. I know you should go for this. And so I was like, okay, maybe. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it. And so what I did was, I had to process this a little further. And what I did was, I drove after a meeting. I went to a Walmart and I grabbed, paper and pen because I wanted to reflect. And I went to a river right where I lived. It's the Potomac River.
And that was like right after?
Right after. And so, I'm on this river. I'm writing down the pros and cons. How they tell you in books, write a line down, pros on the left hand, cons on the right hand. I was trying to list out why. And then another strange conversation happened, where I got a phone call from a business mentor that I hadn't heard from in months. And so this guy had sold a auto-tune software for I think like $2 million. Young guy too.
Wow.
And
that's insane.
He just has this conversation with me. He's like, hey John, haven't talked to you in a while.
You.
Like,
calls
what's
you
up? Out of the blue. And
wow.
Then he says, what you doing? I'm like, Richie, I haven't talked to you in forever, but I'm making one of the biggest decisions of my life right now.
Wow, he came right at the perfect moment.
Right, perfect moment.
Insane.
And so we chat. And then we ended up deciding that, okay, I should probably leave. And so that was crazy. After the conversation, I was reeling about it. And so then I turned back to the river. And as I was there, another crazy moment, one of my best friends from high school, who I ended up being his best man at his wedding, him and his girlfriend at the time were skating by. And so we make eye contact, and then I'm like, "Yo, Austin, what are you doing here? I thought you were at school." He's like, I'm only here for a week."
Wow.
And so he's like, what's been going on? And I tell him, "Hey, man, I'm making one of the biggest decisions of my life." So in the same day, 3 critical conversations with 3 critical people in my life all happened. And so for me, I don't know if anyone has ever read the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. But in the book, it says, when you want something, the universe conspires to help you achieve it. Something like that.
I love that.
And so for me, you asked I know it seems like we're on a tangent, but your question, it was, what helped you make that decision? Well, I'd already known that it was going to be a good idea to go after, but I didn't have the, I didn't have the gumption to do it. But then it almost seemed as if the universe or God or something, I don't know, just 3 strange conversations the same day.
Wow.
2 people I hadn't heard from in months, but they were critical in my life. Came at that moment as if there were angels and like, "Oh, you should do this." And so I decided, I was like, okay, 3 conversations. This is too crazy.
Yep.
I think I should go for it.
You couldn't ignore that.
I
That's
couldn't.
insane. That's a sign. That's like the universe calling you to what you need to do.
Exactly.
To your purpose.
Yes.
Wow. And then then the next day, you resigned?
Yeah, I sent an email over to my company officer, and I told him, "Hey, sir, I have a dream I want for my life, and I think I'm going to go for it."
Man. And then you just left and then went right into working at your company. Yeah. That's insane to have those 3 people that were so meaningful to you and had such a big impact throughout your life were the ones that you just like, go for it. You had that backing from them.
Exactly.
Wow. And so now you're building up your business. After that, you started building up your business. And how was that experience from the beginning?
It was tough. I'll say it was tough because, again, no business background, no network, starting from scratch. What I did in the beginning, I didn't know anyone, so I would just go to every single networking event. I'd meet people. I didn't have a pitch down. I didn't, no true marketing experience, but I would go out there, I'd talk with people, and I'd see, I'd try to figure out how can I connect with them, how can I give back. I will say that my one advantage in the beginning was that I'd been studying personal development for, by that time, like 6, 7, 8 years. So that helped me out. But again, just starting out, it was so difficult. I remember one of my first networking events. It was with a networking group called Business Networking International. And so BNI. I went to one in my area, Alexandria. And so at the time, I didn't know what BNI was. So I went to the meeting, and you're in this room with business professionals who are 20, 25, 30 years in. I'm just this young kid in an oversized suit, and I'm going to tell them about my internet business. Which is, And so I was just talking to people, taking business cards, eating food. And that was one of my first times there, so I didn't know that we also had to do a business pitch, a 30-second, 45-second pitch. And so I remember how difficult it was when just the fear of, person after person giving their pitch, and then I see it coming to me. I have no idea what to say. I haven't really pitched my business before. It was tough in the beginning because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really that guidance, that mentorship. There wasn't like someone saying, "This is exactly what you need to do," who was right next to me. So it was very tough. Had to figure out a lot of things. So yeah, in the beginning it's tough.
So you definitely, it looks like you taught yourself through that. Like
Yes.
you were you figuring things out and how to do things, like what's the next move sort of thing. Like that was all you.
Yeah, and I think that part of the process of your podcast, relentless. That was kind of like my attitude. Just keep on going for it. I never saw anything as really a loss or anything. I always thought that I was continually building understanding and learning and growing. So no matter what, I could have failed 10 times doing my pitch. I could have had 20 people say no to me, 100, 200. I'm learning from every single situation. So very tough in the beginning, but it's very enjoyable because I felt as if I was learning something every day.
So that's actually, I'm really happy you brought that up too, because that's that growth mindset. So it's like no matter what happens, whether it's good, whether it's bad, if I'm uncomfortable, if things don't go as planned, it's like you're learning from it and you're continuously pushing those boundaries. And that's so much a growth mindset, just looking at the positive of every situation, you know? So you were saying that like you've been doing this self-improvement, like self-discovery and self-development sort of thing for years. What, like, how did that affect you? Like, why did you start looking into that from the beginning?
Yeah, so it ties in with what I mentioned earlier when I had to move around every 3 years with my family in the military. And so again, it was very tough for me moving around because I didn't have any friends when I moved to a new place, and it makes you feel very alone. Everyone's different, you feel different. You just it's just very tough. And so at the time when I was first starting personal development, before then, I had a very damaged personal like self-image. It was very hard. I remember looking internally at myself and seeing, am I happy with myself? Am I happy with my life? I'd say no. My family also struggled with, I'd say, some mental health issues as well. And so I think that influenced me. And so I was very unhappy. I was very, didn't have a very good mindset. It was a very tough time in my life. And so for me, the reason why I entered personal development was because I was trying to figure a way out to improve what I thought about myself. Because if I looked to the future, if I closed my eyes at that time and thought of the future, it seemed very bleak, dark and black. So I couldn't see anything. So I began, I think I began with a Google search. And so I think I typed something about, personal development or mindset or improving myself. And that's what really got me into things. And so I think one of my first reads was an Anthony Robbins book, Unleash the Power Within.
Oh, I love that.
So imagine that, I think like 11, 12-year-old kid who's reading Anthony Robbins.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I got into that because I knew how frustrated I was with myself. And then also thank God for the internet, because I started watching YouTube videos by these same people. Wow. I started, if there are free courses, I take the free courses. So I got in. The only way I got in was because of the internet. And then when I got into the internet stuff, I used what I learned, that knowledge, that insight, and I applied it to my own life. But it wouldn't have happened in my own physical environment, so that's why it was so important that the internet was there.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you were able to get that, you had access to that a lot more easily than trying to look around you at home. Yeah. And so when you were building up your business, I'm sure you had doubts. You had struggles that you had to go through. Did you have any like sort of practice, like day-to-day, like weekly practices, things that would just kind of keep you on track?
Yeah, so for me, this is a practice that I took back even when I was a kid. So I remember, I still have the paper too, but I have one sheet paper. It's, the lined paper where on it I did an exercise where I listed out what I wanted to be in the future. So the characteristics. So I remember some of them was like, I want to be loving, caring, intelligent. I want to be adventurous. And so I think there's a list of 23 different characteristics that I would read to myself with a lot of conviction and emotion, and I would picture the vision of what that person would be like and do. And so in those tough times when I was young, even when I'm much older now, even today, I was envisioning, what does the future me look like? Wow. I really feel it. I really see it. And that's really what helped carry me through some very tough times. That vision for the future. You don't know. You have this feeling of, it's possible. I know I could do it. It's not there yet, but you're planting the seeds, and there's just that belief and just feeling that emotion. That was a practice that really carried me through some tough times.
So referring back to this list of attributes, like qualities that you wanted to reflect. Exactly. And then thinking, like, I can imagine that because it's like on a day-to-day basis. I think I even did that at one point. It's like, okay, this action that I'm taking, or hey, not going to that next step. Like, am I reflecting this goal person, this goal image that I wanted to reflect? Yeah. So that really helped you throughout your different struggles in life. Yeah,
and it's still to this day. So if I want a goal that I want to accomplish, one of the first things is, what does that look like? How does that feel like? Let's say I want to build my company into a certain revenue level. Well, how does that look like? How does that feel like? How am I on a day-to-day basis? What is the culture of the company? Just that vision, listing out the attributes in your mind and really vividly feeling it. It's something I do all the time, whether it's problem solving, visioning, goal setting, every single day.
And, I think a big part in that too, like, it's just something that like I've applied myself, even it's like writing it out. Like writing it out makes such more of a difference than just thinking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got to write out your goals, like, you know, in your case, your attributes you want to reflect. And so how is your business now?
Oh, it's crazy from where it started when I had nothing, you know, I was in literally my parents' basement.
That's insane.
To now, you know, have an office in Tyson's Corner. Has had it for, I think, almost 6 months now.
Wow.
Have a team of 6 people.
6 people.
You know, we've helped some amazing companies. One of them, HVAC company. I think we've generated them in the past year 3,000 calls. 3,000
Wow.
calls. And so, if, you know, imagine having to fix a heater or air.
That's a
condition.
lot.
Yeah, so and all of them are qualified calls
And they're
through the
all
website.
qualified. That's what I was going to say.
So I made them some good money this past year. So them, you know, I've helped other companies, physical therapy, open up a 3rd location because they have more time because they're getting traffic from the internet. And so I'm really excited for, you know, this year was a great year. Next year's gonna be even awesomer.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, amazing change.
Yeah, 2019 is going to be a big year.
Yes.
That's great. I also wanted to say there was a post that I was looking through your posts. There was one statement that you made, and it said, "We're kicking internet ass, and we're taking names." And I think that's pretty applicable because you guys are in a really good spot. So can you say that everything that you went through was worth it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you think about it, in in the context of how long it takes some people to start a business, we're kicking ass, and it's only could have happened in 2018 the way that it's happening.
And I did want to mention something before when it came to like your practices and all, because this was something that it was pretty cool stuff, but that you were at a time when you were working on improving your public speaking skills. Because when I met you at the BNI networking event, right? And you were speaking and you looked so confident and you were like, you had everything on lockdown. And then when I read this post about saying how you struggled, you were an introvert and you struggled with public speaking and you were so shy, I was like, that is not the case. But you practiced, right? So you practiced. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I started when I was a kid. So I remember that, I knew that public speaking was an important skill, but even in class, I remember trying to raise my hand and I'd be extremely nervous. There'd be butterflies in my stomach and, just stressed, like super stressed out. And so I figured out that I really wanted to get this skill handled in my life. Mm-hmm. So at the time, because we had the internet, we had YouTube, there was all these vloggers that were doing videos all the time. So I figured to myself, if I did some vlogs every day, if I practiced, maybe I'll get better. And then I remember reading the Tony Robbins book that he got better at speaking because he found every opportunity to do so. As a kid, I didn't have any opportunity because I was a kid. So what I ended up doing was I decided as a challenge for myself for 1 year, 365 days, I would shoot a 30-minute video just speaking every single day. If I missed a day, the next day I would speak for an hour.
Wow.
So I did that for an entire year. And then so I did that. I got so much better at speaking. I was still pretty bad, but I did that.
No, you're not.
I did that for a challenge. But then what I did was I actually started a Facebook group that still exists to this day. I think there's 1,000 members. It's called the 365-day video challenge, where there's been people all over the world.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So you put that on other people to then get
and
influenced
they've done it. They've done it, and they talk about how it's improved their ability.
That's incredible. Yeah, I saw that in the Tony Robbins, or I read that in the Tony Robbins book, that he was talking about other speakers and how like they would get better at something and they do it every so often. So he's like, I just did that times 10 in the same month, like sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's why I did it.
Good takeaway from that book and applying it to yourself when you're 12 years old.
Basically.
Oh my goodness, that's insane. I have to say, I've gone through like your posts. I've been following you for some time, since we met, and everything was just really, really impressive. And I know that you are about that growth mindset, and so that's why I knew that you were going to be a perfect person to have on here, because what you've accomplished at your age is not, and I'm not going to share your age with people, but what you've accomplished is impressive, I have to say. So kind of just some final thoughts on the podcast here. I wanted to know what the events in the last 3 to 4 years, how it's changed your life or your perspective of life.
Yeah, so in the past 3 to 4 years, I mean, one of the biggest realizations that I had was that really your life is your own. And so, I think some people go through life and they have so many obligations to family, friends, or, how people did it in the past. So just going through my own life, I realized that, your life is your own and you can make of it what you want to. You're not bound by the history. You're not bound by your past. And you're actually not bound by your current situation either. So what I learned is that if you have a vision and you build towards it, you can basically do anything you want. And so, don't feel chained. Don't feel bound by anything. Really, life is your own to write. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in the past few years.
I love that. That's big. Lightning round now for the
Shock
end
me.
of the... Okay, I did want to ask you the self-development and growth mindset that you have and that you had since you were 12 years old. Why has that been so important to you?
It's been so important for me because some people I see just remain static where they're at, and they feel like they've done enough. But for me, life's just so exciting. There's so much you can do, and I'm really trying to move the world towards a great place, to perfection. If I that's the goal for everyone.
Wow.
Right? For everyone to be incredibly happy. So if I have that in mind, I need to continue to learn, to grow, and to master to be able to to do good.
Yep.
And so we're not going to stop until we get there. So that's why it's been so important to continue to grow, to continue to serve, and to continue to build.
Awesome. Next question for the lightning round. If there was one book that you could recommend to the audience that has made an impact on you, what book would that be?
One of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in particular, one chapter, I love the chapter on persistence. I remember in the beginning of my business when I was struggling and trying to figure out how to work things out, I'd read that chapter out loud every single day on persistence.
Wow.
And so the entire book is great, and that chapter is great. I recommend it to everyone to read.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that final recommendation. I did want to ask you because I wanted to let the audience know if there was any way to help you and your business grow, because I love supporting local small businesses also. What sort of clientele would you say you would be able to help best? So if there was a recommendation or referral, what would be the best sort of clientele?
So businesses who have a physical location, and I like working with companies that do a lot of home services. So, like the plumbing, the HVAC, I like those types of companies, roofing, lawn care, landscaping. I love helping those types of companies. But basically any company that is a local business that, they just want more local customers. That's the people I help.
Okay, local customers. Awesome. All right, everyone. So you heard it from John. And at Pollyanna.net. Pollyanna is spelled POLIANNA.net. You can go to his website, Pollyanna.net, or you can give him a call at 703-475-6907. All right, well, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for being on. Thank you so much, John, for being on this interview. It was great to have you. That concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, feel inspired, and would like to hear more, please subscribe to the Relentless Minds podcast via the link in the show notes or visit LoriJimenez.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.